Back.
How's it going?
I'm blessed. What's up? How can I help you out?
So I sent out my first batch of postcards, and then I got a call from this lady, and we got the motivation. We kind of agreed on the price-ish. I got everything I needed, but then she told me that the property was now on the market. So now I'm having to deal with the realtor too, and I'm just kind of confused about the process I have to take through that, because I was watching your guys' videos, and you said the deal's basically out of my hand at this point. So I can't use my title company.
Do you have the deal locked up?
I don't. I have an appointment with her tomorrow.
So
this is easy. Let me take this
Yeah.
for you. So first of all, she didn't tell you it was on the market. Do you think it was just an oversight or it was done on purpose?
Well, she was in the process of putting it in the market when my mailer came in. So then she called me and she said she wants you to do it through me.
Okay. So you got to walk a fine line a little bit. So are you a licensed realtor? Yes or no? Okay. So if you're a licensed realtor, you got to walk away. You can't even talk to them.
you can,
But I'm just telling you, you're in big risk. So you're not there. So number one, first of all, did she sign a listing agreement? Do you know?
I believe so.
So it's up to her on her own reconnaissance to get out of that listing agreement. And you got to say, listen, it's up to you. Here's the reality. If she stays in that listing agreement, she does a deal with you, that agent, broker, whatever it is entitled to a commission. Between you and me, it has nothing to do with you. You did not hire the realtor. You did not sign the listing, and that is up to the seller to work that out with the realtor. And you got to be careful not to run interference, because I don't know how much the realtor knows. They might know nothing about it. So
She's
definitely signed the listing agreement.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because I checked the property. The property does say it's on the market. And the realtor actually called me about it too. He's like, yeah, we have it for this price, but she's probably flexible on this and that. So the realtor is trying to work with me. But my main confusion is...
Yeah. So I'm just telling you, you've already established a relationship with the seller, right? Before the realtor.
Correct.
Keep that line, because that you were there first. You just give the seller options without burning the realtor. It's not the realtor's fault. And honestly, what I do is try to strike a deal with them and then let her sort it out with the realtor. It's kind of just because you can screw it up, like saying, she could say, are you going to pay the realtor's commission? Here's the reality. Listing agreements can be dissolved just like that. They're not extremely enforceable at all. And if she just changes her mind, but she has to do it on her own. She can't come back and say, Jack told me to cancel the listing with you. That's going to get you, it's going to create problems. So I would just I promise you, if you try to negotiate with that realtor, it's going to be a nightmare. So she gave you all the motivations, everything. Just say, listen, if we can enter into an agreement, I'm sure you can talk to the realtor. If you want to get out of that listing, that's up between you and the realtor. I want to make this as painless as possible. Dude, I cancel listings all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you what, most of the listing contracts, they're very unenforceable. If they have the slightest argument, they can get out of it. So here's my strategy is I would try to get a contract and get an agreement first, just because this realtor is going to try to wedge and try to drive a gap between you guys. So get it under contract and then have her unwind the listing agreement. And even if you had to wait an extra month to get the deal done, then give her that luxury if she gives you a good price. You can't drive the price up because she hired a realtor. It's not really your problem.
Yeah.
So remember, the obligation of the realtor is always on the seller side. It's never on the buyer side, unless you agree with something else in writing. So I would work with the seller. Hey, listen, you got my postcard. I know the timing worked out perfectly. Just try to come up with a number that's agreeable with you, without the realtor. And at worst case, what price range we talking here roughly?
It's listed at around 3 something, but I'm trying to get under contract around 270, 280, which is very doable between other.
Listen, your worst case scenario, if there's a $4,000 or $5,000 commission that's due, hopefully you make enough money that you could actually cover it. I don't like to pay realtors for nothing, but I do respect their business model. So you've already talked to the homeowner. Do not try to go through the realtor, because it's going to blow up on you.
Okay.
And just work with it and go, listen, if we can work on an agreement and then do it backwards.
So to clarify, even if the listing agreement is already signed,
I
can still get my contract signed, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
now,
send it to the title company and everything, even though the listing agreement hasn't been dissolved.
Listen, the listing agreement is between the seller and the realtor. You have nothing to do with it. You have no say, input, or anything, and you have to kind of give that way. You give them
they'll
options.
probably have to pay though, the seller. And so what I like to say personally is, hey, Mr. Seller, I don't want to pay an extra 5-6% to purchase the property. I know you don't want to give up that much. I mean, I don't want to buy this house if you have a listing on it. And so if you want, I can buy it, but there can't be a listing on it. And I can buy it for this price.
Yeah.
What you want to do is you don't want to tell them specifically to dissolve it, but you got to put in their head, okay, Jack is only going to work with me if I dissolve the listing agreement.
Yeah. Now, sometimes they'll say, listen, I want the realtor to be paid.
Then pay them.
Just
I've had that happen.
Do the best number and move on and respect it. But the reality is I would put the contract together, negotiate the best price and pretend the realtor's not there, and then deal with it backwards, because you're never going to get the realtor's consent to just completely back out. Yeah. Worst case scenario, a lot of times you go back to realtor and go, listen, we'll give you $1,500 just to get out of the way at the closing. And I think that's a respectable thing. But once again, that's going to come from the seller. Here's another advanced strategy you can do is, she goes, well, if I enter in this agreement with you and I got to pay 5 or 6%, first of all, the reality is that realtor should only be entitled to half that commission, because they'd have to go out and get a buyer's agent, which they don't have to do in that. So right off the bat, you can knock 3%, 6%, knock it down to 3% and go, listen, we'll make this number contingent on if you successfully cancel the listing on your own. You have nothing to do with it. You cannot be the scapegoat for it canceling. Worst case scenario, you might be able to fire a buyer and still cover the realtor's commission, but you were there first. I would keep that relationship going. If she says, I'll enter that agreement if I can get rid of the listing agreement, and go, listen, if I can't get rid of the listing agreement, you will help her resolve how you do the finality of it. So it's just, you just got to navigate around. Here's the beauty is it's not really your agreement. And I've seen wholesalers go in, they strike an agreement, and then they tell the seller, you have to deal with paying the realtor's commission. You don't want that for your seller, but the reality is you're down to 3%. So do the numbers. If you can make a lot of money and so you got to give them $4 or $5 grand to go away, it's not the end of the world. Most realtors at the end, they'll take something over nothing. But if they know that you're striking a deal behind their back type of deal, it usually gets ugly with the realtor, and they will try to run you under the bus as hard as they can. So work with the seller. Go, listen, I'll do whatever you're comfortable. If you want to pay if you want to involve the realtor and stuff like that, pay the commission, but just understanding you're just kind of taking money off the top of this. I get the predicament you're in, but like, here's our options. If we can strike an agreement, do this. And then if you can get rid of that listing, then we can move forward with this contract. If not, you might have to bump up the sales price a little bit to cover the butt on there. But it's funny. Realtors get real active. Like, they'll start guarding their client. And if you engage the realtor, they're going to, well, I'm not going to use the technique I'd use, but they're going to protect their client and wrap their arms around him and try to block you as much as they humanly possibly can. So I think you were there first. And from a pure ethics thing, it's the right thing. If you've already talked to the seller, you've identified the motivation. But this is the problem. Is there a problem with the property?
It cosmetic stuff. It's nothing major. It's just, it needs painting outside, and it needs new flooring in the rooms. That's right.
I always go back to the root of what the client wants. So if you want to sell the property as is, kind of no inspections, without all the BS, and this fits for you, is great. How these properties wind up getting listing is just like blows my mind away. And some of it's just timing. So just make sure you respect the seller's wishes. Be careful they don't have a personal relationship, because a lot of people, it's their cousin that's selling the house and the realtor. Everybody's a realtor. Oh, yeah. I don't know if it's a distant relationship, but just work with the seller. And either way, make a deal happen. Don't let the realtor kill it. It's not their fault. Yeah. But most realtors are pretty reasonable. It's got to come from your seller, and you can plant the ideas in their head. You're not doing anything illegal, by the way. If you're licensed, you couldn't have 80% of these conversations. And that's why I don't want you guys to get licensed if you can avoid being licensed.
So how do I structure the deal to include the realtor if I have to? Like, do I have to put an addendum in the contract that they're getting a certain percentage, or is it just like
you have so basically they have a contract already, and the seller and the realtor have the contract. You have no bearing on it. You're just the buyer. You legally don't know a dime. But you want to be cognizant knowing they're going to have to pay at least 3%, and then you can build that factor. And the easiest way is if the seller could cancel the listing. But that you have to coach them to do it on their own, because if you wind up being the catapult, they're going to go crazy. And as far as understanding, when you write a contract, you pick the title company. It's your choice, period. It's not realtors will try to strong arm who they want, but you're the buyer. Hey, here's the deal. And you can write that in your contract, black and white. And remember, your contract doesn't have to be signed by the realtor, just by the homeowner. So part of me is I would like to lock the deal up and then work with your seller on solving the realtor problem and make them feel comfortable about it. And if they try to get rid of the listing, then great. You might have to wait a month or two to close just to let the dust settle so you don't get in trouble. Or worst case scenario, negotiate, get it under contract, and then work with the title company to negotiate with the seller. The max would be 3%. Because there's no other buyer's agent involved. And honestly, I'd try to negotiate down to $1,500.
And okay. And that's just a verbal agreement, right, with the realtor? Or do I have to have anything in writing saying that I'm going to give them a certain amount?
Well, at the closing, the seller would have to sign some paperwork. Some realtors are like, "Screw you, you're paying me,"
Mhm.
and
Let the title company do most of the work, though.
you know, but that's it. Like, don't lose your deal. The realtor is just, it's the minor part of the deal. So if it's a deal, worst case scenario, you pay 3%, and then you go down to like either free or $1,500.
And would
The
that
most
come out of her check or would that come out of my assignment fee?
all negotiable how you
Okay.
want to do it. So
Okay.
you can do whatever you want. That's what I keep telling you. Like,
Okay.
don't volunteer till you have to. But
Got
the
it.
reality is, the seller's going to feel bad because they recruited the person. They're going to tell you, "Oh, I spent all this marketing." Dude, they take a couple photos, throw it on the MLS, and you never see them again. It's just the truth. So be respectful. People, these are people in your communities that like earn a living. If you try to go to the realtor, you will be vilified. So just work on it. And then if you have to pay the realtor's agent out of your side to induce the deal, that would probably reassure your seller, but you got to make sure you get a good price on it too.
Okay.
So it's don't try to go directly with the realtor. It'll be a nightmare. Like, I'm just telling you guys, if you can work directly with the sellers without a realtor, would you say without the realtor, it'd probably be a pretty easy deal, right, Jack?
Oh, 100%.
So just, it's a roadblock. So just work with it. Go, listen, we're going to write the deal. Worst case scenario, if I have to pay them, then you can do that. The most is 3%, 3%, 8 or 9 grand. Like, just work out the numbers, but most of the time they'll be negotiable and you can work through the title company to do it. But
I agree.
it makes sense. Don't ever let a realtor kill your deal. The best thing you can do is try to get the contract signed. Once you have a signed contract, you have a lot of leverage. Without a signed contract, you really don't have anything. And the realtor is going to keep trying to close that gap. So the faster you can connect with that seller, the more options you have, because you're always going to do the right thing for your seller. Like, you don't want them to be pissed because they have to eat the real estate commission. So you just find a way to make it work. Sometimes you split it. Sometimes you have your buyer pay for it. Like, I've had buyers pay for it all the time. Here's the catch. There's a 3% commission. You got to pay this crazy lady on the other side. Sorry. Worst case scenario, you just pay it out of your portion. Everything's negotiable in real estate. So you have a great deal. The motivation's there. Stay on target and just get it done. The realtor is just a pimple on this deal. So pop it and move on.
Sounds good.
Okay,
All
man.
right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And like the realtor, like the deal's got to move forward, guys. You just, it's like a settlement. So it's like Congress. It's like trying to get a bill passed. It's like, I'll give you this if you give me more beef at a discounted price. It's a give and take. Don't let a realtor's $3,000 to $5,000 commission kill a deal. Like, you have a great deal there.
I agree.
Just work it.
Use the title company too. I want you to understand this. Like, and first and foremost, I want everyone to know, like, if it's something that's illegal, talk to your title company, make sure what you're doing is legal. Because some people take what we say and be like, "Oh, I'm going to mix these things," and then you do something that you shouldn't do. Make sure you have a title company, look over everything, make sure you're doing everything legally, ethically, and legally with an attorney at the title company. Make sure they look it over, and they'll tell you if you can or can't do it right. And they'll be the best advocate for you too.
Have you guys ever read a listing agreement?
Crazy.
You got to read them sometimes. Do you know realtors are trained to have clients sign a minimum 6 to 12-month listing? And most people don't ask because they don't know it's an option. You can do listings as little as 30 days. And in that listing usually says, if you're not satisfied with something, as long as you express your concern, you have the ability to opt out of the listing agreement. And people act like, "Oh my God, I'm going to get sued." It's not. I'm just telling you, they have brokers they work for. If they're not happy with it, I always try to do the right thing. But every now and then you just got to settle with a real estate agent, just like you would with any other lien, and don't let it kill your deal.